Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Mountain Musings. We're in Discipleship, and this is episode 6, Transformative Gospel. You can't really tell from the video, but fall is in the air around here. And soon we'll be lighting the fires in the wood stoves, wearing sweaters and other warm jackets. But right now we're enjoying some beautiful fall weather. I really like this time of year. My favorite times of year are fall and winter. I even like winter because I can always add another layer, but there's a limit to how much I can and should take off. So I like fall and winter. Soon you'll see trees start to change. In fact, in a couple of places, they're starting that early tinge. The bright colors are soon to follow. Today we're talking about the transformative nature of the gospel and its role in discipleship. I want to read the following passage. Woe to him who strives with him who formed him, a pot among earthen pots. Does the clay say to him who forms it, what are you making? Or, your work has no handles. Isaiah 45:9, English Standard Version. One of the nice things about being a soldier was we lived by checklists. We had a checklist for everything. We sought to leave nothing to chance. And in fact, one of the things that uh, took up a lot of my time during my career was looking around and reviewing checklists, making sure that they were up to date, that they included all the pertinent information, and that they really provided us the guidance that we needed. And so, like I said, we had a checklist for everything, including career management. There was a checklist for your career. Very useful thing. It told you what schools you needed to attend. It told you what jobs you needed to have, when you needed to have them, when you should expect to move to a new duty station. All these things were laid out. And your primary goal as a soldier was to perform well in the jobs that the checklist told you were very important. So in many ways, your career was quite simple. You knew where you needed to go, when you needed to go, and what you needed to do while you were there. The only real challenge was performing well in those critical jobs. And being a teacher was much the same. It's one of the things that I liked about being a teacher. I liked it about being a soldier. I liked it about being a teacher. It told you what you needed to do, when you needed to do it. And if you followed the rules, played by the game, checked all the blocks, good things happened to you. In fact, uh, I was supposed to go to a specific school, but an invasion of Iraq intervened and I was unable to attend, as were many of the majors in my year group. The Army recognized the fact that many of us had been put out of cycle, and so it issued us a waiver. Uh, and life was good. We were able to get around that problem. So, much of my professional life has been about using checklists. Follow the checklist, check all the blocks, good things happen to you. And my casual definition of good things being you got promoted. You got promoted, you got to move on with your career, and sooner than I imagined, you would reach the goal of retirement. And it was the same in teaching. However, our salvation and ensuing discipleship not run by checklists. We're not in charge. And that's a challenge for many of us. Perhaps I should have started off the discipleship series with this idea, but I did not. So let's plunge ahead because it's important, and we need to understand the fact that the gospel is transformative. It changes us. Discipleship plays a role in that, but it's not a role of me changing myself. It's a very different role. Consider this passage from 2 Corinthians. Paul writes, "And we all, with unveiled face, beholding the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit." 2 Corinthians 3:18. You see, Paul explains that you and I, our role really is just to look at the Lord. And when we gaze upon him with unveiled face, are being transformed. Now, I, as an English teacher, not a real fan of the passive voice. I used to hammer my students, no, you need to write an active voice. But Paul here chooses a passive construction to get across the point that I am being changed. I'm not changing myself. I'm not going out and with discipline and grit and strong work changing myself. No, I gaze upon the glory of the Lord with an unveiled face. Unlike the ancient Israelites who Moses veiled his face, that's what Paul's referring to. We gaze upon the Lord with unveiled face. And that really is what discipleship is all about. It's the act of me gazing upon the Lord with an unveiled face. So the things that I do in discipleship are not things done to make me better. They're things that are done to put me in the presence of the Lord. And that's an important thing for you and I to remember, that we engage in discipleship not to become better through our own efforts, but instead we engage in discipleship to put ourselves in a place where we can gaze upon the Lord. Our prayer, our devotions, our being with fellow believers all put us into a place where we can gaze upon the Lord. I like watching a potter at work at the wheel. In fact, I don't know of anybody who doesn't enjoy watching it. I've never actually tried my hand at throwing pots other than throwing them away. But seriously, the clay does nothing. It's a cold, lifeless lump. And that's what the prophet compares you and I to. He says we're a cold, lifeless lump. And all we do is we submit to the pushings, the pullings, the spinnings, the twistings, the work of the potter. And all that the potter does fashions this cold, clammy, messy lump into either a beautiful, graceful vessel or a vessel that is suited for service. And the clay gets no glory. None of us sit around and say, wow, that pot did a great job. The potter does a great job. Now, we admire the pot, we admire the end result, but the truth of the matter is the potter gets the glory. And we need to remember that. Our best efforts are nothing. Again, I'm going to turn to Isaiah. We have all become like one who is unclean, and all our righteous deeds are like a polluted garment. We all fade like a leaf. Isaiah 64:6. In this passage, Isaiah reminds us that the best efforts that I bring are worthless. The polluted garment image that Isaiah uses is likened to a used menstrual cloth. In fact, I had a friend who taught junior high Bible in a parochial school, got in trouble for pointing this out. But the truth of the matter is, it's a good picture. The best I can do, the best efforts that I bring to the table are worthless. They're refuse, they're garbage, only worth being thrown away. So when I engage in discipleship practices, I have to remember that the best I can do is worthless. I bring nothing to the table. It's God who transforms me, and it's God who makes me a better person. And this is an important thing for us to remember. In Luke 18, Jesus paints a picture for us to show us what a true disciple looks like. And he compares a Pharisee and a tax collector going up to worship. And this is a very famous passage. We all have heard it. But in the passage, the Pharisee is very prideful. He says, look at all these great things that I do. The Pharisee beat his breast and said, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. The Pharisee understood his true state. And that's what we need to bring when we engage in discipleship. We need to understand that my best efforts are like a polluted rag, and that I am a worthless sinner seeking mercy from a loving and caring Father. And that's a very important thing for us to remember. Remember, Paul says, but we have this treasure in earthen vessels to show that the transcendent power belongs to God and not to us. 2 Corinthians 4:7. This is an important passage for us to think on, to ponder upon, to ruminate on. The treasure that we have is in an earthen vessel to show that the transcendent power belongs to God, not Matt Robinson. It's not my power that makes me a better person. It's not my power that improves me. All I do is I get close to Jesus. That's what a discipleship is all about, drawing close to the Master. A good friend of mine always talked about how being a disciple meant that you were close enough to Jesus that the dust of his feet settled on you. And that's what the discipleship acts that we perform do. They get us close to Jesus, and his transcendent power that we view with unveiled face changes us. We get close to our Master, and we become more and more like him. So as we kind of examine discipleship, we need to always keep in mind that it's the transformative nature of the gospel that is at work. Not my best efforts, not my discipline, not my smarts. It's what God does. All I do when I engage in prayer and study and fellowship and the other things that disciples do, all that does is put me into a position to where I can view with an unveiled face the glory of God. And just looking at him brings about a change within me. It's a wondrous event. And it's a beautiful process. God gets the glory, not this crumbly earthen vessel that he has to work with. The pot doesn't get the glory. The potter gets the glory. Thank you for being with me. I hope this is helpful. I hope this is something that kind of reorients us toward the greatness of our God. You want the printed version will be on the website. I thank you for your time. And as always, please leave a like, give a comment. I especially crave those comments that help me be better at doing this. It's been a pleasant afternoon. Good day.